Welcome replay viewers, welcome live viewers. This is Janice Temple. Hi guys. So we are at Journal-isms Roundtable, and the gentleman that is standing, that is Richard Prince. Please share this out. The gentleman next to him who is seated, that's Jesse Holland. Hey Catchy, how are you doing? So we're still kind of trying to get orders and stuff together, but I thought I'd go ahead and start. We're really late today. I'm so sorry. But it's going to be excellent conversation. So make sure you guys share and follow. And so Jesse Holland is seated, Richard Prince is standing, and Jesse Holland is seated next to Richard Prince in the middle there. Hello, hello. Black Panther is so... Well, it's still about a Black Panther. That's all right. That is okay. So the speakers are sitting over here at the table. And he wrote the novel, Who is Black Panther? So these are some of the people in the room. These are journalists, retired journalists. People are still arriving. People are still coming in. More journalists. There's a photographer in the back. She was White House photographer for the Clintons. She's on. That's Sharon Farmer over there in the right-hand corner back there. And hello, ladies. Say hi. Say hello. You're on.
I'm Becky Williams. I'm a longtime member of this league, and tonight we're going to talk about Black Panther.
We are. Awesome. You want to say hi?
We're at a Mexican restaurant.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Want to say hi? I'm good. How about yourself? That's good, Eddie. Thank you. Just say who you are.
I'm Eddie Sergeant, former law enforcement spokesman writing books under the title of The War in America about the relationship between black men in particular and white.
Awesome. Wonderful. Hi, would you like to say who you are? Oh, I'm sorry. She's eating. I'll let you eat. I will let you eat. So, Richard, say hi. I'm live. So, Richard is the host. Okay. Thank you. Say hello. Say hello. You're live. Hi. Introduce yourself.
Jesse Holland, author, Associated Press.
Okay, author of?
Okay, so Jesse Holland, I'm the author of his book, the novel, Black Panther, Who is the Black Panther? It was the first novel that was written about the Black Panther, authorized by Marvel. Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you. And you are? Okay. Okay, fantastic. I don't know if I can get over there. Okay, I have one more to try. Hi. Hi, say hello. Well, you asked. Yes.
My first meeting at my lab. I'm a lawyer, but I'm a writer at heart. I'm author of
That's okay.
The Magic Door to Everywhere.
Magic door to everywhere. All right.
All right, hello everybody. Let's come to order here. Good to see everybody. We just have a couple of announcements before everybody's ordered, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, those who have credit cards, Ellie, the manager for the evening, is going to take your credit cards and process those. So be sure to see her, when you're ready. Also, we had an issue with the coats too. People wanted to put their coats someplace else. She's willing to take all the coats and put them in one place, or we can just leave them where they are. It's up to you. And of course, there are drinks, and there'll be a separate tab for that for those.
And they're very good. Yes.
Thanks, Catchy.
And we got a good crowd, as you can see. Nobody's shy in here, mingling and all that. And I will send out a note soon about the next roundtable, which will be on the 10th of April, March, April. Some may remember that a few months ago we had the NAACP chair and vice chair here, not here, but at our roundtable, which was at the Thurgood Marshall Center. And at the time they were looking for a new president. And some people were sort of, well, are you going to have a woman as part of the time? Other suggestions. And it was a lively session. We also had Kevin Lewis, who was at the time Barack Obama's press person after he left office. So that was an interesting session, as I said. The next weekend, they said, well, we're not going to have this nationwide search after all. We're going to have Derek Johnson, who's right here. He'll be the new president and CEO. And so it was. So, there's on the show. So Derek is going to come back and report on what the NAACP is doing. Their big priority this year is going to be the midterm elections.
Thanks for the hearts,
and making sure that the right people are going to the polls. That was one of the big points they made at the session they had with us, is that the black turnout could have been better, and in the various places where it made a difference. So we're going to have him back, and he's going to bring experts in these various subject matters. And he's
I do.
As Deborah, who covers Mississippi, was glad to find out, because she did a piece about his relationship to Mississippi. So without further ado, we're going to all introduce ourselves as we usually do. And where should we start? Start with Lori.
Hi everybody, I'm Lori Grant, Managing Editor at Transport Topics.
Okay.
Pearl Stewart, retired former editor of the Oakland Tribune and also from the San Francisco Chronicle.
Good evening, I'm Sonia Foster. I'm a features photo editor at the Washington Post.
Hello, Doreen Bethesda, multi-platform editor at the Washington Post.
Hi, Darlene Superhill, White House reporter for Associated Press, and Jesse's my colleague.
Good evening, Vernon Smith, National Ocean Service.
Oh, the lady, I spent most of my career at the New York Times and a few other places.
Latrina Anspine, I'm the editor for DC Witness. We are a publication that reports on all of the homicides in DC. That's a judicial resolution. And what makes it even more special is I'm here with my boss, so don't say anything bad about me.
You can't turn with this person.
I'm here because I appealed to this gentleman in journalism, said, I need a brilliant editor. And I got a gift from heaven in this fine room.
That's awesome.
And I'm her boss, so please don't say anything bad about me to her.
Jackie Grade, I'm retired from USA Today and an independent consultant.
Hi, I'm Nichelle Smith. I work at USA Today. I handle race and diversity projects in addition to being features editor for the Network National News Desk.
Right.
Michael Dole, retired TV editor of the Washington Post.
Hi, I'm Sherry Williams, the assistant professor in race, media, and communication at American University, and I was a newspaper reporter for 10 years before I went back to school.
Okay. Let's John.
I'm John X. Miller. I'm the senior editor for Commentary News and HBC News at The Undefeated.
All right. Donna.
Hi everyone, I'm Donna Walker, president of Washington Association of Black Journalists.
Hi everyone, my name is Colin Campbell. I'm the vice president of the Washington Association of Black Journalists. I'm a doctoral student at Howard University's Communication, Culture, Media Studies program, and I'm a correspondent for a couple foreign networks. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Holland a few times on a few subjects, and shameless plug, we are going to have a meeting at WABJ at the end of the month on the 29th featuring Richard Prince, who's going to talk to us about Kerner Commission and how far we have come since the Rice Commission. So hopefully you guys will come, the 29th of this month.
Right. Thursday.
Yes.
Fred.
Fred Sweets, contributing editor at St. Louis American, the #1 black weekly in the United States.
I got my start at the Washington Informer and at the St. Louis American, this family newspaper. I was in Missouri. And former Washington Post reporter, former law enforcement spokesperson. Had the unfortunate experience of being brutalized by the police. So I write about that in a series of books called The War in America, about the relationship between black men and police. What's interesting, I'd like to share it with you. Ben Bradley came to a trial that I was in. He was a character witness. I write about that in the book.
Who was the character witness for Ben Bradley?
Anything on Lisa didn't let out was a journalist. I missed the news journalist, I should say that. But now I'm doing PR.
Okay, good enough.
Betty Ann Williams, ex-AP, and other places as well, but independent journalist.
Lynn Adrian, I direct the DC Graduate Program in Broadcast and Digital Journalism for the Newhouse School at Syracuse University. I'm also newly on the advisory committee for Press Forum, which is an organization started to deal with, to combat harassment in newsrooms. We had our launch today at the National Press Club. One quick appeal, at this point, the advisory board and the organization itself is really white. It's really white. And we all know that there are additional stories to tell. And if you have interest in being involved with this effort, with this movement, and for us to take advantage of this moment so that our stories about harassment, not just sexual harassment, but racial harassment, other types of harassment can be told and get illuminated, please get in contact with me.
Okay. Yeah.
Kim Pearson. I'm a professor of journalism at the College of New Jersey. I'm a board member of a startup called Tarbell, which is a journalism startup started by Linda Potter, the whistleblower, used to be at Cigna. I happen to be in town because I have a meeting of the National Science Foundation looking at funding opportunities. Because what I do is I build, my work is in computational journalism, and I build collaboration between computer scientists. And I used to write for Black Enterprise and Emerge, among others.
Hi, I'm Joyce Wellman. I am a visual artist and a printmaker, also a member of the board for Humanities DC. I'm always the oddball. I love it.
Yes. Okay, Sharon.
I've had a great 4 days with Delta Sigma Theta because it's Delta Days in the nation's capital. And rather than just write letters to the editor, write letters and send emails to the Congress people who's supposed to take care of our business, 1,800 of them came this weekend. This is our 29th year. So for 4 days, They learn how, once again, so when people come, how to lobby their congresspeople. You know how to call them back in 2 days going, hi, what happened? That's all you do. What's your name again? I missed that. I'll call you back tomorrow. What time should I call? So 1,800 of them went to the Hill today.
Wow.
And Barbara and Cory Booker were there yesterday at the luncheon for social action. We are totally social action right now because the stuff is so serious and bad about the gerrymandering, throwing people off of the rolls. The prisoners can't vote. And let me tell you how much I love Terry McAuliffe. All those things that those stupid people at the legislative in Richmond didn't want to do, he couldn't do it as a group for 240,000 people. So he signed them by hand every day until he got out of office, until he finished. So I learned stuff I didn't know. And then Reverend Barber comes. I'm ready to go to his church. He gets it. You know, don't go to church. It's about changing and keeping stuff together because everybody likes to just get their purse, their car, their carpet, and make the wife and the kids happy. We are some very serious trying times. And that do-nothing Congress vote, they're trying to take us all out. So if you're watching TV every day and drinking Kool-Aid, we're going to go down, because they got the gerrymandering going on with the lower courts. They got pure racist Donald Trump types trying to take us from what we've been used to, what we take for granted, what our parents worked so hard for. It's really wild, guys. So please pay attention.
Can you send test
talking head stuff? You're talking about Africa and Iraq and Asia, and not one person in that stuff is Asian or African. It's all white talking heads. Enough of that. Protest. You all should be on the tube. Okay, I rest.
Oh my God! Oh wow!
Straight from Wakanda.
Yeah, she is straight from Wakanda.
Elected officials, she doesn't look like that. She puts her time where everything is.
Yes, and tell everybody your name so they can know who to vote for at the ANC election. That's right.
All right.
And Jessica has just joined us. Jessica, we're all introducing ourselves.
Up there, right?
Yeah, you can sit over here if you like. We're all introducing ourselves, so.
You have to introduce yourself.
Oh, she got to sit back there.
Jessica.
Oh.
But and they are the table as well.
Oh wait. Wait. Oh. Okay, was that her?
Right.
That she's done? Okay. Trying to get it together. Somebody's on my timeline there. Turn it around here. Flip. Okay, I'm Janice Temple. I am a Periscoper live streamer, and I have now been promoted to curator of Own Voices on Periscope. So this is something that we're doing in beta. We're working with the Periscope editorial team, and we're going to do Black History 365 days a year. And so I choose broadcasts to go on the Own Voices channel, and then they're featured on Periscope. Basically, that's what's going on. And so there are 5 of us that are part of Own Voices currently. We are looking for more members to participate. And Own Voices is global, so it's awesome that we not only have the support of Periscope TV editorial team, but we have the support of Twitter Blackbirds. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Twitter Blackbirds, but that is the tech employee resource group for Twitter. So Twitter Blackbirds, they host special events. They did something for Black History Month. They did something for International Women's Day. So there is a Twitter headquarters here in D.C., so it'd be good to connect with Twitter Blackbirds. They definitely need to be covered more. That they're part of tech. So they're encouraging more people to be part of Twitter, especially more blacks. So that's what we're doing now. And so you guys are on Own Voices tonight. And I will share the link with Richard. And you guys will be able to see.
Excellent.
Okay?
Okay. Ellie is our host. You want to just introduce yourself?
Just the manager of Los Cortes here.
Just the manager. Well, it's nice to meet you.
Well, we're glad to be here. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
And a multitasker managing a 9-month-old.
Oh yes, I have a 9-month-old baby.
Oh wow! Oh, thank you, Ketchy.
Okay, Marita.
Hi, I'm Marita Coley-Flippin. This is my first meeting, but hopefully not my last. And I thank Richard Prince, my church member, also Dorothy Gilliam and Richard go to church, so some journalists go to church. Metropolitan A&E, you're welcome. I have to confess, I started my career in journalism, the Washington Monthly and the Detroit News, and then I went to law school, so I practiced law, communications law for 8 years, was at BET for 6 years when it was a public company. And currently I'm acting CEO of the Multicultural Media, Telecom, and Internet Council. I'm looking forward to working with everyone, hopefully collaborating on some grant applications for some of the things we want to do. Good to meet everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Richard Prince, I write the column Journal-isms about diversity issues in the news business, and I also collect money for this dinner. Anybody who hasn't paid up, I'll be glad to see you. Okay, we're going to start with Deborah.
And I'm Deborah Berry. I'm a Washington correspondent for USA Today. I cover the Deep South, including Mississippi.
That's right.
Deep South, wow.
My name is Carl Chancellor. I'm a former columnist for former Not Ritter. I'm also the director of Center of American Progress, progressive think tank. And the fortunate man who's married to this young lady here, Crystal Williams.
Good evening, Crystal Williams Chancellor. I am Director of Communications for the Women's Media Center, and I'm delighted that Dick has asked my colleague and I to share some of the projects with you this evening. Former journalist. Well, can you be a former journalist?
Hi, I'm Kate McCarthy, and I work with Crystal at the Women's Media Centre. I'm Director of Programmes there. And I'm unusual in this gathering because I'm not a journalist, although I am learning an awful lot from being associated with Crystal and from the work that we do with many journalists all the time. So thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, and Jessica, we'll get you. Okay, now, as I've mentioned, Crystal and Catherine have helped produce this new report on women. In fact, I got a note from somebody that said, you need to have more on women of color in newsrooms. And so this will be a beginning. So why don't you tell us about the report you just produced and also the mentoring program that I'm sure lots of people will be interested in. So it's all yours. You've got the floor.
Well, thank you. I am very excited to share the report that we just released last Tuesday, the status of women of color in U.S. News Media 2018. And it is a report that we have done for the first time, and we believe it's a rare look at women of color in the newsroom. We've previously done a report every year that looks at women as a whole in all the various media platforms, whether it's news media, TV, online, TV and film, and literary, just across the board. And so we had a discussion last year about taking a closer look at women of color, just to look at some of the things that are unique to our experience that are different from the general population. I don't have copies of the printed report to share with everyone, but I will pass around just a little note card that on the back has the URL that I invite everyone to take a look at and just find out more about the research itself. It was, in our report, we talked to about 30 women of color who are in TV, print, online, and radio. Catty Gray, I think who many of you know, was the author of the report and did all of the interviews of the women of color. And it was, I think, a good chance for folks to collectively share the experiences and the stories within the newsroom that I think many of us have probably talked about amongst ourselves, but to be able to share that with the larger population, I think, and hopefully raise the profile and the voices and some changes within the industry. The research that we use, part of it came from the American Society of News Editors and from the Radio, Television, Digital News Association. The numbers may not be as surprising to those of us in the room, but for in print, less than 8% of the journalists are women of color. For TV, it's 12.6%. And for radio, it's 6.2%. So as you can see, the numbers are very small, even smaller for African American women. In print newsrooms, there are about 2.6% of women, of black women who are in the newsroom. Wow. And so you'll see that obviously our voices are not being elevated. We're not getting the kind of recruiting, hiring, promotions that we should be getting. And we're hoping that as a result of this report, that there will be more introspection on the part of the industry and the public as a whole to make sure that the voices are heard and respected and shown in the media. One of the things through the stories, Catty, I think, did a beautiful job talking to a number of women, some who are well-known, like Soledad O'Brien and Joy Reid and Ann Curry, and some who are not as well-known, but their stories are very similar in the kind of experiences that are shared. They talk about the obstacles that are faced, whether it be racism or sexism, just the general Old Boys Network, and some of the other obstacles that are faced by women of color. And come together in the end to talk about collectively what some of the challenges are, as well as some of the things that could be done to change the face of what's happening inside newsrooms. As we know, women are 51% of the population, and people of color are 40% and will soon be the majority in this country. And we believe that the media should be reflective of its audience because in order to have a credible media, it has to be inclusive and representative of all the voices. There are, in the back of the report is a list of recommendations that the Women's Media Center shares, but also it's just kind of a starting point for a conversation. One of the things that we suggest is that newsrooms be more intentional and purposeful in hiring, recruiting, and training women of color. That there also be a wider pool, because one of the things that the women in the research talk about is that often newsrooms go to the same people and recycle the same voices instead of looking for new voices and new opportunities for women of color. Just to also give a sense of what the numbers look like for men of color in the newsroom, which are not much better. It's probably just maybe a half a percent change. In local news, men of color are 11.7% of newsrooms. In local radio, 5.5%. And in print newsrooms, 8.5%. So as you can see, it's a challenge for the industry as a whole for women of color and for men of color, but particularly for women of color. I will take questions if you have questions, but I hope that this will just be a starting point so that each of you will go and take a look at the report, read it, share it, hopefully, and
write about it.
Write about it as well. Thank you.
Hey, Tess.
So I have one. You said for men in television, the number was 11%. It's the only category that's double digit. What was women in TV?
Women in TV is, women of color is 12.6%, and I should make a note of saying it's local TV, local radio, but the numbers for print are nationwide.
That was 2 point something, right? For women.
For in
print.
In print, it is 7.95%.
Which one was like 2.6%?
Well, it's 2 points in for black women.
That's what
Incorrect, yes.
So that's what I mean. So does that mean African Americans are in media, but in larger number gravitating toward television?
Television tends to be more representative just based on the numbers. Obviously, the numbers still are fairly low in television, but of those four mediums, television has the highest percentage of women of color.
I just wondered if you had statistics over time. Has this been a flat line, which is what I suspect is the case, because those numbers sound very familiar. Somebody who got into this business more than 30 years ago.
Yes, and one of the things that Dana Kennedy, who is the administrator for Pulitzer Prizes, she is one of the women who was interviewed in the report, and she says something similar, which is basically, she's been in the business for 25, 30 years, and there really has not been that much change. The numbers that we found were very hard to come by. The ASE numbers and the RT-DNA numbers are numbers that they've kept for the last year or two, and their last year's numbers were slightly higher, but again, we're talking about maybe a fraction of a percent. The challenge is for the industry also for there to be more transparency on the part of the organizations, because the numbers that we were able to find were really very all together, and there's not a lot of sharing of the data. Obviously, newsrooms are keeping the data, but then they know what the numbers are for their particular newsrooms, but they're not sharing it as with the industry or with the public in general.
Would you say there's less public pressure on organizations to disclose their numbers? That would be my guess.
Yes, I found just from anecdotally that the newsrooms that are doing very well are more willing to share, and those that aren't doing as well are less apt to share. But all of the newsrooms, particularly the larger newsrooms, the CBS's, New York Times, and Washington Post of the world, they definitely know what it looks like within their newsroom. Yes.
Yeah, what percentage would be representative? What percentage are you shooting for ultimately? And why is it important to have women in? What?
It's for Periscope.
Hands up, don't shoot.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God.
I will quote the late Gwen Eichel, who we all love, who said that the most dangerous bias can be found in stories that aren't told. So the fact that there aren't women in the newsrooms, those stories are not being told, our voices are not being heard, and we're not getting the opportunities as our counterparts and particularly our white men. And I'm sorry, your other question was what are we shooting for? We're shooting for really, equality and inclusivity in the media. I mean, in 2050, we will be majority of the population, and we think the media should be reflective of the audience that it serves. I'm sorry, there was in the back.
I've noticed recently there are a lot of people like I watch MSNBC and CNN and all. A lot of black women on there. What do you attribute this extra amount of people that we see of color on the news today? Is it the Me Too movement? What's going on? Because it definitely, you can watch like 11 o'clock at night and you can end up having all women. White as well as black women. What do you attribute that?
I do attribute it to just more awareness. I think newsrooms are being held more accountable, particularly for women as a whole, I think, so that there is more responsiveness on that element than it is, just across the board.
Do you think the Me Too movement has something to do with this?
I think there's some of that, but the Me Too movement is a fairly new movement, so that I don't think it really has captured as much that I hope it will moving forward. But it does, obviously there have been some changes within the industry because of the Me Too movement, whether it was Nat Lauer or Charlie Rose, and so those obviously created opportunities, although those opportunities, I guess with the exception of Hoda, was obviously a great opportunity for her. But the bottom line is that still, we may still see a few more, but it's still not representative of where we should be as a country.
Yeah, and Betty Ann points out that MSNBC is watched by more black folks than the other cable news.
I would also, as an organizer, I would also say change is never given. I mean, we fight for change. And I think that there's been a lot of organizations like the Women's Media Center and other organizations who we work with who have been working on this for 10 years. I mean, trying and battering people to say you've got to have a diverse media. It doesn't make sense to report the news to a population when you don't look like that population.
Sure. Okay, a couple more questions. Okay. So, yeah. Go ahead, Michelle, and then we'll call.
Okay. I was just going to say that as a person who got a little bit of a sneak peek, thank you so much. Thank you both for the report and putting that together. This is sort of shaping up to almost be the year of the Black woman. There's been so much talk about our effect on the vote and our effect in general in society and also in the media. So I'm happy to see that emphasis. Couple of questions I had in reading through. A lot of the great people that you talked to about this issue were emphasizing recruitment. What are your thoughts, and what are some of the thoughts that you gather in terms of retaining people who may be knocking up against a glass ceiling, no matter how well they serve their newsroom? That's one of was it 2% or was it 2 that were in newsrooms? Because some of us who are in print, there are only 2 of us.
There are 2 people.
Also, the second question would be whether anyone who was able to give you numbers, was able to tell you what the positions were, or maybe forecast a little bit of the fortunes for the 2 people that they had in the newsroom.
No, there was, and again, I hope that this also will mean that there will be more research to look at more of the people behind the numbers and the reasons for why their numbers are so dire. But we've struggled with trying to find really any kind of quantitative way of showing what the representation is. But the retention piece is a big piece because across the board, whether it was whichever newsroom you were in, based on the women that we talked to, many of them hit a glass ceiling or hit some kind of barrier that led them to either leave the newsroom. We mentioned Soledad O'Brien, who we all knew from CNN, but she was they were looking for a different kind of look, and she was replaced, and she eventually created her own media. And so did Maria Hinojosa, who ultimately was with NPR and a few other organizations, and ultimately created her own media. And they share their experiences and talk about the frustrations of being in mainstream media and not having the kind of opportunities and hitting continually against that wall. So I hope that there will be opportunity across the board so that women who choose to stay within mainstream media have the opportunities to do that, and those who want to create their own media or go to other industries can do that as well.
Okay, Colin.
Yeah, I wanted to know if there were any implications for progressive forms of media. You were just touching upon that a little bit. Newer forms of media like podcasting, where sisters finding spaces to tell our stories.
And as part of the whole podcast digital, we also looked at online. Online, unfortunately, did not have any numbers that really could look at the race and the gender piece. And so it's hard to kind of tell where that emerging part of media is going. But podcasts and
YouTube.
YouTube are creating additional opportunities. I hope that they will create a new playbook so that they don't fall from the old playbook, so that women of color have more opportunities within their particular spaces and platforms.
Okay, Sherry.
Yeah, so thank you for doing this, because I've used these for several years in my own research and also in classes. But one thing that students have always asked is, what about women of color? Because the information, the report before was just across the board. So what prompted you to just really isolate and concentrate on researching the presence of women of color in this role?
When we put together the broader report, we have a few pieces that are specifically look at people of color in general. And so it created kind of an inner dialogue about looking at women of color that would be obviously very different from the general population. And so we talked about how to do that, and the challenge was the research, because there is not a lot of research that looks at women of color and how we're faring within the newsroom. And so we kind of started out on a quest really trying to find research and also to find the voices, behind the numbers as well to share and perhaps create a more of a dialogue about what is happening. Our hope is that this will be the first of a series of looks at women of color from the Women's Media Center. This one was particularly just looking at news media, and we're hopeful that the other ones will look at perhaps TV and film or literature or the tech industry or other aspects of it. And I am delighted that Caddy Gray, as I mentioned, was part of the project, and as you know, she's a veteran journalist and has a lot of good experience and really brought a lot to the discussion. And she also writes our general status of women in media report too. So having her as part of our broader team really was a joy to be a part of.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Now, Fred, do you want to tell us about your project with Melissa Harris Perry?
Oh, okay. So, okay, yeah, I won't take a lot of time. Okay. So what we're doing is this project called Black on Campus. So last year, when I was a postdoctoral fellow at the Andrew U. Cooper Center at Wake Forest University, we partnered with Elle Magazine to do this project called the Elle Scholars. And basically what we did was got them to commit to, first of all, and most importantly, funding us so that we could be able to take the students on training excursions and also to media trips to New York City and things like that. But what we did was we basically met with these students every week, and some of them didn't have very much journalism experience, some communications but not journalism. So we taught them how to write a lead, what an upgraph was, how to look for information, how to interview people, all that sort of stuff. And we did a project on squad care, which is really just this idea that even though people have talked about self-care a lot, self-care is important, but we really should be taking care of one another as a collective and as a squad. So all of the students wrote a story about it. I wrote a story. Melissa Harris Perry wrote a story for the project, and L.com produced it. So I said if we do it again next year, I would like for us to do something a little bit more concrete and a little more newsy, and also something that would be able to utilize the students' lived experience. So this is an incredibly difficult time to be a black student on any college campus, including an HBCU campus. So this year I wanted us to focus on what it's like to be black on campus. So that's the main project. Why is it difficult to be a black student on campus today?
More than previous. More than any other time. Yeah.
I mean, we will not replace us, UVA, like all these different things, all these microaggressions, like flat out.
I just want to inject because some of us being older, integrated campuses, and I suspect that's what is.
Oh, driving the question. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that it is harder to be a black student on college campus today as it was before. Yeah. I think it's hard to be a black person in the United States.
It was ever.
But I think there are some unique ways in which things like technology are affecting students on campus. So I'm not sure if you all are familiar with Yik Yak, and even though it's this defunct now, but there are all these different ways in which, like when I was in school in the 90s, my classmates at white schools, because I went to an HBCU, they would get flyers, racist flyers slipped under their doors and things like that. But today, it's being multiplied and amplified on social media, and now universities are in this position where they are faced with trying to develop policies and practices to not only just deal with it, but also figure out how to punish students, right? So there are all these different ways in which being black on campus is nuanced and different for this generation and this decade. So because when I was at Jackson State University in the early 90s, we had gay students on campus, but they were not really openly gay on campus, and they weren't really accepted. But there is a wave, a quiet wave of acceptance of LGBT students on HBCU campuses now. So that's like one of the stories that we're doing. We're doing stories about debt and wealth and how that plays an impact. I mean, because there are 10 students, 10 fellows, 10 stories. So there's a lot that we're doing. But we're really just doing all these stories about what it's like to be black on campus today. And there are 10 students from across the country, from as far as Nevada to Atlanta, all across the country, and those stories are going to be published by The Nation in July.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Now, Kate, I've got to get back to you about your mentorship project. So.
Thank you. So the Women's Media Centre was started 10 years ago to make women and girls more visible and powerful in media. And Crystal has given me a really clear outline of our latest report, our latest piece of research, which we're extremely proud of. But the Women's Media Centre as a whole does a variety of different things. We do a whole bunch of research, some of which you've seen and which we're building on and is very important. We also do content, so we have independent content where we publish stories. And somebody was asking about the progressive media and how we get more kind of niche media out, not niche media, but media with different voices out there. All of our writers, and pretty much all of our writers are women. We really do young women as well as older women. We work hard to ensure that we have diversity amongst the people who are writing our stories. And then we have our programs, and our programs, the two main programs we do, one is SheSource, which is a database of 1,353 this morning experts that we connect up to journalists and bookers and producers and people organising speaking events. SheSource is an amazing resource for journalists, and we work very hard to ensure SheSource is diverse. People can apply themselves to SheSource, so you fill in an application form online, and as a resource itself, it isn't 40% women of colour, but any information we push out of SheSource, we ensure that at least 40% of the women that we're focusing on, that we're shining the spotlight on, are women of colour. We're working hard as well to ensure that we have a geographical spread amongst the experts that we feature and that we work in. So it's not just experts from New York and DC and California and maybe Chicago. We also want experts who can tell stories and tell the experiences of women who are in other places of the country. I ask for your help in helping spread the word about SheSource and helping to get more people to apply to SheSource. There's a number of women here who may be really good experts. And what we do is we just raise the voices. We raise the voices that are underrepresented. In the last election, I think it was about 28% of the people commenting on the presidential election on the talk shows, on the political talk shows were women. And that's what people are listening to when they're deciding on who to vote for. That's who's talking about whether or not Donald Trump has or has not had relationships that have been abusive to women. So we need more women's voices in there, and we need more women of colour's voices in there, because if we're not, then we're not getting all of the stories and the journalism isn't great. The other thing that we do, another project that we do, a program that we do, is our Progressive Women's Voices. This is a training program where we work with progressive leaders and journalists who want to make their way generally in front of a camera and to become pundits. That program, we've just missed the deadline for this year, but I will make sure that Richard gets the information for next year. And again, in that, we're trying very hard to raise the voices of women of colour. 60% of the women who we've trained have been women of colour, and as years go on, that number goes higher and higher, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to correct the balance, and at the moment there are voices that are missing, and we're doing everything that we can as an organisation to try and change that.
Generally, the deadline is in February, just a general...
This year it's March the 4th.
Oh, okay.
Generally, what we do is we put the information out at the end of December or beginning of January.
Yeah.
And we try very hard to get that information to as many lists as we possibly can. And organisations that are working around progressive issues that we feel are really important to try and elevate. This year it was March the 4th, the deadline.
Any other questions? We want to give Justin time to eat here for a little bit before we go into his presentation. So, with
Steak fajita?
No, not steak.
Thank
So let's
you.
take a 15-minute break.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll come back in 15 minutes.
Oh, I also have a leaflet here about Jesus. I'll pass it around.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we're going to have a 15-minute break to allow Jesse to eat, and then we will be back. But I'll show you guys some of the amazing food here, in case you're in D.C. I know you guys love food. Oh, no problem. Oh, thank you. Can you just pass that to that table there? Thank you. So I'm going to show you guys the food first before I sign off. And this is there a menu? So I'm going to show them food. They love food. I don't know if you guys can see it. Oh my God. I don't know where. I was going to look for a menu. So I guess I'm going to end on a food shop. And we will be back after a little munching.